All right. Hi, everyone. We are a few minutes late, and I apologize for that. We had some technical issues. So it turns out I had scheduled both of these StreamYard rooms yesterday, but it was confusing because it popped up, hey, it's day three, hey, it's day two at the same time. So I deleted the day three one. And what that did was it broke the link to going live in the group. Um, so we had to recreate this, which means that if you're watching this on Facebook, you don't have the proper link to join us in this broadcast studio. So I am going to, in a few moments, pass it over to Ashley, and I will paste. Ashley, I didn't tell you I was doing this, but I will paste that in the Facebook group, or you can go do that if you want in the Facebook group, so that people have these StreamYards, and I can even send out a text when you go to let people know where we are as well. But most people have been watching us on Facebook anyway. So if you're here on Facebook, I see we have a few people. Thank you so much for hopping on. Just like the last few days, definitely drop your name below. Let us know that you're here. We are so excited to have you here for day 3 of Rise Up, 3 practices for finding balance and purpose in a post-COVID era. So again, I am Dr. Erin Myers. If you haven't joined us the last few days, that is fine. You can hop right in now, and then you can go back and you can watch the replays at a different time. If you are here and you're watching the replays, please put hashtag replay and go ahead and interact as though you are watching it live, because we will be monitoring the comments and will definitely help you through these exercises as you go. So thanks so much for being here. Hi, Jennifer. Good. Oh, and thanks for putting that in the comments, Ashley. So there is the StreamYard link right there. Hey, I don't know who you are, but hey, thanks for being here. Okay, so we have talked about clearing, where we cleared our shoulds, we connected with our values, we made sure that the actions that we are taking every day are in line with our values. Then we connected and we did the reframing exercises and talked about our perceptual lens and the neuroplasticity of our brains yesterday. And then today we are going to create. And what is that? Really, we are going to create a little bit more of kind of an action plan moving forward for making sure that we find balance in our life. So with that being said, what I would like to do is go ahead and pass it over to Ashley. Ashley, if you want to start with the exercise, we can jump right into that, and then I can get in with a little bit more of the science behind it as we go along. And this will just be kind of like a banter today.
Sounds great. Thank you, Erin. And hello, everybody who's joined us. And if anybody who's joining who doesn't know me and hasn't been to the other two, I'm Ashley Barnes, and super excited to wrap up this day with something that is so important to bundle up all the work we've done. So just to kind of recap, like Erin did, the first day we really looked deep into why we do the things we do. What are our values? What is driving us? And where are we doing things that don't really match up to that at all? Which is an important foundation for all the other pieces. And of course, yesterday we walked through a process of reframing, connecting into where we are, what kinds of things stress us out, and how can we rethink that on an ongoing basis. But today, really, to me, is like the capstone of how this all comes together, because now we kind of have the foundation. We kind of have a tool to, we have a tool to reframe that. But going forward, those things are really important, but we want to make sure that we have a plan and tools, ongoing tools and practices that keep all of this in place for us. So those things that we did the last 2 days, hey Sheila, put these on your plan, but we're going to talk about some additional things really around the general concept of self-care. And of course, that can be so many things, right? Self-care can be activities, but self-care can be the practices that we've already talked about. So I want us to think really broad, but I want us to have a plan. And the reason the plan to me is so important is right now we can sit here and probably list off 5 things that you could do for self-care. But in the moment when we're like frazzled and we're feeling anxious and we've let things pile up and we've maybe let go of some of the practices that we know are helpful, it's awfully hard to think about what we need to do to feel better when we are in that state of mind. So having a plan in place and some activities and some things that we know help us, we can just pull that back out and say, oh yeah, this. So if you have your workbook, bring that up. And if not, again, like I said, we can walk through this. This isn't too hard. It's a brainstorming session, but I want you to look at self-care in maybe a different way than you have in the past. I don't want to just list out a bunch of activities to do, because let's face it, there's a lot of different things we can do self-care related, but they're not all practical, right? Oh, good, Sheila. I'm glad, because this is going to be fun for today, I hope. They're not all practical, right? So for me, my greatest self-care thing that I do is going to the beach. And we go on vacation to the beach for 2 weeks every year. And it is the best 2 weeks of the entire year. But it's only 2 weeks of 365 days. It is not one of those things I could do every time I feel stressed out. So I need more than that. I need a whole variety of things that I can do in the moment that are quick fixes. I need things that I can do to sustain it ongoing, and I need annual things, or things that maybe don't happen as often, that are bigger but are just as sustaining and just as fulfilling. So when you pull up that sheet in your workbook, you'll see a column that says time, you'll see a column that says activity, and you'll see a column that says how often. And the time is really how long it takes to do, right? So you're driving down the road and you're getting anxious about that driver that just cuts you off. What kind of activity, going to the beach isn't going to help you. Taking a hot bath isn't going to help you. You can't do that in that moment, right? What can you do that's quick, that really sustains you? So that's where, thinking about that reframing exercise, that maybe takes 30 seconds, right? Breathing, that maybe takes 30 seconds. It doesn't require any tools. So I really want you to think through, as you think about the kinds of things that sustain you and that you want to incorporate, or that you're already incorporating, but maybe haven't thought about as self-care, how long it takes you to complete them, how easily accessible they are, and those types of things as you're thinking through, because we want to have a variety of these, right? We want to have a lot of different things that really help us out in the moment, ongoing, big picture. You also have in your workbook a second sheet just to kind of help jog your thought process around some rejuvenating activities. These are just ideas, certainly not an exhaustive list. We all have something different that we like to do that really moves us. And to be honest, I think it changes, at least for me, from week to week and sometimes moment to moment. What was really comforting yesterday was not necessarily comforting today. I want to do something different. So having those pieces in place, so again, we can kind of jog our memories when we need to. So I'm going to shut up and give you a second to kind of start making a list and kind of thinking through this. And what I would love, of course, is for you to share some of your ideas, especially if it's something not on the list, because everybody needs new thought processes around this. I would also encourage you to think outside the box of activities and think of practices like what we did the last couple of days. Maybe reevaluating your values on a regular basis is something you want to add here. Reevaluating your shoulds and doing that process, or reframing, or anything else that you've learned over the years that is helpful for you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of not listening to me so you can think through this. But Erin, if you have anything else to add, feel free.
Not right now. I went ahead and put the worksheet up on the screen for those that maybe don't have the workbook available, and you would prefer just to see this visual representation of the chart. Again, if you have not registered for this event and you would like a copy of this workbook, we'd be happy to get it to you. So go ahead and drop your email in the comments below and we'll send that over to you. I love this. We can banter while they think about this. For me, it's massages, bubble baths. Going to the beach is a great one. I have friends of mine that just bought houses that didn't have master bathtubs in them, and it blew my mind. I'm like, who doesn't like baths? And there are people out there that don't like baths, but the bath is my happy place. I could sit in a hot bath for hours.
That has really become a big piece for me, and I recommend that to clients all the time because it's relatively easy. Hot bath, Epsom salts, lavender oil. I do that at least once a week. And you are right, the newer houses do not have master baths like that. We were shopping a while back, like a couple years ago, and I was just shocked at the fact that I was going to have to schlep across the hall to use the kids' bathtub, which frankly usually gets really gross. So I was glad we didn't move. But yeah, I'm totally with you on the bath, and it's so easy to do. And let's just add that Epsom salts, or salts in general, those bath salts, no bath for you, okay? Fair enough. Baths aren't for everybody. But those Epsom salts are really good for clearing the energy, clearing all that space. So it kind of doubles as a relaxation, but also a clearing process too.
Yeah, there's actually, so here's me putting my nerd hat on, right? There's actually a direct correlation in research out there that shows that Epsom salts and that magnesium, when you soak in it, so even if it's just a foot bath, it reduces anxiety and stress. So there is research out there proving that. And if you can add those essential oils in there, and you know, they all make them nowadays with the essential oils in there, the rose, the lavender, any of those, it helps even more. And salt just in general. So if you can't find Epsom salt, if you find, you know, any sort of salt, then you can throw that in the bath. I know there's, you know, Dead Sea salt out there. That's great. It's wonderful. One day I will get back to the Dead Sea because I went as a teenager and I didn't appreciate it the way I probably should have, right? It was just cool that you were floating. And now I want to go back and like really soak in the history and literally soak in the history as I'm soaking in the salt. All right, others, there are no baths, but let us know what it is that you prefer to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And everybody else who's listening, if you have some great ideas or some things that really work for you, I'd love to hear them. If you have questions or concerns, I know I'm in a couple self-care groups and things on Facebook and other places. And, you know, what comes up a lot, I guess, is time for self-care. And I think it's probably a little placating to say make time, because let's face it, if we could do that easily, then we'd be doing it, right? So if that's a challenge for you, let us know. I think it's something we can all kind of talk through and think about. How do we make time for these really important pieces that we need in our lives to create this balance? And really that, I mean, if we're feeling like, and I'm right there with you, if we're feeling like I don't have time for this, that's usually a clue that I need to, I'm out of balance, and then I need to make time for this, for something, you know. And you can always start with, like I said, the 30-second things, you know, the breathing, or the, you know, maybe it's a little meditation or visualization while you're in a shower, which you're already doing anyways, incorporating it into things you already are doing as part of your life. And I'm sure you have other ideas, because you guys are really innovative, intelligent people. I know this.
So I think you touched on something that's really important, and that's the guilt. So guilt is one of the 7 blocks that are common across all human beings. And it's important to recognize that when we say, oh, I can't go get a massage. You know, I would feel too guilty. I'm taking time away from my kids and taking time away from my spouse. You know, I could be working on my job. I could be, you know, there's so many shoulds. Going back to the shoulds exercise, right? There's so much of that. There's so much guilt associated with self-care, especially in our particular society. When women, and we talked about this on day 1, where women have this societal expectation in particular to care for others, and we don't take enough time to care for ourselves. There's a lot of guilt. For me, there's definitely guilt. Well, I can't hop in the bath right now. You know, I should be doing the dishes. I should be doing the laundry. I should be, you know, I can't spend that money on a massage because I should be using it towards whatever else. So you see how all of this is coming back full circle. As we talk about these rejuvenating activities, we're getting back to the shoulds and the blocks and all of that we need to release and clear before we can really get to the connection and then the creation of these activities. So as these new emotions are starting to arise and these realizations are starting to occur as we look internally and do these activities, make sure we're circling back. You know, those that clear and that connect. The day 1 and the day 2 are consistent activities that should be done every day. I know we mentioned those on day 1 and day 2, but they need to be happening as these new emotions arise. So this is really a cyclical process.
Absolutely, yes. And I 100% agree with you. I think the guilt is a big block. And I think then what comes up from there often is shame that we haven't done this, right? Shame that I haven't put myself first, that I haven't put my needs first. And, kind of the same process as like you were saying, all of this is just a cycle. And the idea is not to create more shame or more guilt, but to really, create possibility. Where do we have openings that we haven't seen before? Shifting that perception of what we thought was reality. And maybe it's a reframing process around, it causes me stress to think about having to incorporate more self-care. And that's a very viable complaint we have, right? Is, oh my gosh, doing more self-care creates more stress. So I don't want to do it at all. And so I would put that in that reframing piece of how can I think about this differently? How can I see it without causing stress? And for everybody, that's obviously very individual. And I think, we want to reiterate too, as you're putting together your plan and your thoughts is, the time it takes is really important. You don't want to try to crunch in something like a bath that you might sit in there for an hour, if you're like me, when you don't have time for that. That's not realistic, and that sets us up for failure. You want to put in some things. See, I'm an ice cream eater, so ice cream always makes me feel better. So I'm all about some, feeling down. I mean, granted, I think we do have to be careful about feeding our stresses, but, on occasion, ice cream is amazing. And, well, maybe more than on occasion for me. But also, that's why I said looking at some of those activities that take a little longer and really creating some balance there. And Lori, I see your comment that you're here and no problem on that delay. And I'm curious again, since we're a little quiet today, or maybe I just can't see the comments. Sometimes I can't see them. If anybody has any thoughts, feedback they'd love to share, things that they really like to do. I know Sheila has a new puppy, not to put you on the spot, but I know for a fact that petting animals, I'm sure you might have some science on this, Erin, but petting animals and having pets is a great way for some relaxation and anxiety reduction. And you all might have
That's the release
thoughts.
of endorphins. That's the science behind that is simply the release of endorphins, right? Now, if you're scared of dogs, then that's the opposite. I think we both hit your mute button at the same time. So yeah, if you're scared of dogs, might have the opposite effect. We want to release those endorphins and reduce the cortisol in our brain. But yes, definitely petting dogs is a huge one. And so as we begin to kind of wrap up this idea and make sure you're including how often you plan on engaging in this activity, I want to go back to the definition of self-care in general. So a lot of times when we hear the term self-care, we think of taking care of ourselves. And there's this very feminine definition of that, of getting a massage and going to the spa and getting a pedicure and a manicure and getting our hair done. And if that's not you, that is not me. If you guys can't tell, like my level of of makeup and hair done over the course of the last 3 days has gone down. My priorities have shifted. I have my 1-year-old with me on Fridays, and so I've been scrambling this morning to get him to a babysitter while I do this workshop and all of that, which means I have no makeup. So I started off with like a full-blown hack on day one. Then yesterday was just a little bit of concealer and eyeliner and stuff like that. And then today has been nothing. So for me, self-care is not going and getting a pedicure and a manicure. That is not me. In fact, frequently self-care for me, I talked about the bubble baths and the massages. Those are big ones for me, but working. Believe it or not, for me, they're accomplishing a project, a big task that I had in front of me that I was excited about. It fulfills me. It brings me joy. And that's because I'm in, the right career and the right position for myself and my particular needs at this season of my life that may not be you. But recognize that, you can break that traditional definition, that societal expectation of self-care. It doesn't have to be a manicure or pedicure, getting your hair if you're a woman. It doesn't have to be going out and playing a sport or hitting, the road and jogging if you're a man, right? There's these masculine and feminine definitions, these stereotypes of self-care that can totally be broken. So me sitting down and knocking out work for a solid hour without any interruptions, that's a huge self-care component for me. And so I kind of want to tie all of this in a little bit more to that balance. We have a comment, so I want to make sure you get it. So we have music play from my playlist makes me feel better quickly. Love that. Yes. So music very frequently releases the emotions, and that can, increase the endorphins right away. Ashley, did you want to chime in on that before I move into the valve concept?
No, not necessarily. I think total agreement that music is a great addition because it doesn't take an extra effort. And I think that's part of that balance, right? Of not always putting everything on your list that requires either money or time. Turning music on, you can continue doing whatever you're doing and have that same effect. And I also just wanted to tag on how much I really loved your talk about the difference between this feminine and masculine piece. But what that really brings up for me is the idea that sometimes self-care is not doing the things that we think are expected of us. That's a way deeper level of self-care than just the superficial eating ice cream and going to the beach and the baths that we've been talking about. It's much deeper and much more, I think, transformative for us to really identify those things and say, gosh, really showing up today without makeup, it might for somebody be really vulnerable and invisible in a way that has not been comfortable before, but it creates a whole different level of awareness of where we're at. And I think that putting those types of things, like maybe think about what your fears are when you're thinking about your self-care list. What is my greatest fear? And put that down as a possible opportunity for a different level of self-care.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Ashley, because that's true. So I've talked about kind of the 7 key areas of life. I was going through a 7-day challenge, and one of the days was fun. You need to have fun in your life. And I sat there, and it was at the end of the day. We had just put the kids to bed, and I looked at the dishes in the sink, and I go, today's my fun day. Those dishes are staying dirty overnight in the sink. And for me, like just accepting that and releasing that and letting go of this obligation that I had created in my own head, because there's not really an obligation to get the dishes washed every night, right? But for me, that's my system, that's my process. Like the dishes get done after the kids go to bed, and then I go to bed. And letting go of that and going and, I went and took a bubble bath because that's me, right? But that was self-care for me. Like not only the bubble bath, but the release of this false obligation that I have created in my life was huge. All right. And then Jennifer says, I'm inspired when I see beautiful things, art, yummy fabric. Okay, I'm intrigued because I love that is the adjective that you chose. It makes me feel excited and happy. Antiques with history, I can imagine. Music, large bodies of water make me feel free, at peace. Oh, that's so calming, like for me, just envisioning large bodies of water. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Jennifer. We appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to tie all of this into a concept called the valve. So the 7 key areas of life that I have mentioned, they need to be in balance at any point in time. So if you think of them like a wheel, and let's say you're out of balance and, there's some areas that are a little wonky and you have a wheel that kind of, doesn't travel very well. Well, there's a valve that can help you inflate the wheel to be more balanced, more even, so that you can travel more effectively through life. If you have this imbalance in your life and you visualize this kind of imbalanced wheel rolling down the road, it's going to break occasionally. You're going to have to stop, build it back up, and then continue on with your journey. Sometimes it's going to be super bumpy unless you properly inflate it and you find that balance, and then you're going to roll through life a little bit more smoothly. And so that's this concept of this wheel, and the valve blowing it up to help create that better balance and that smoother ride is this concept that you can live your values. So going back from day one, as well as these things that rejuvenate you and give you energy and make you feel good, you can utilize those as that valve to ride more smoothly through life. So as you recognize the change in your emotions, the change in your energy as you do these things, and you make sure that you put them on this list in the worksheet to have a specific frequency that you accomplish these that's going to work well for you, then you can have a much smoother road. In addition, when we think about the things, the areas that we know we need to improve upon that we're out of balance in, you can use the valve and these things that rejuvenate us and energize us, and you can balance the things that we know we're out of balance with by incorporating those. And it's actually a very similar exercise to what we did yesterday in terms of reframing. So let's say we know that a rejuvenating activity for us is the opportunity to go to the beach, because we've talked about that frequently. You know, Jennifer mentioned large bodies of water. Now Sheila is talking about walking in the woods, tuning into your senses where you feel most at peace. So let's think about that. The actual physical traveling to an area that gives us peace. So we know that that is a rejuvenating activity for us. We know that it is energizing for us. But we know that we struggle with finances, as an example. So that's an area of imbalance in our lives. And we have a lot of stress and anxiety that comes from finances. And if you think of it like a backpack, it is a giant boulder that we're carrying around in our backpack. That stress and anxiety is always there. So how can we use the things that rejuvenate us to help us with the areas that are weighing us down? So reframe to think, okay, how can I go to a place where I find peace to help me with finances? Well, maybe it is, applying for a job where you actually live near the beach. Or maybe it's applying for a job that has a corporate park associated with it where you can go and spend your lunchtime or breaks walking in the woods and reframing yourself. And that will ultimately bring up your finances because you are happier in life. You have found a job that is serving you, that is better balancing you. You see how all of this kind of interweaves together. And so you can kind of think about this. So how can we boost our finances? Maybe it's getting a part-time job as a Parks and Rec person, or volunteering in a Parks and Rec area, and finding a way to have a side gig that is incorporated with the beach. Or, maybe you get a side gig as a travel agent. And so you get discounts to travel to the beach. Maybe, it is finding a side opportunity to coach a preschool group that is exploring the woods every summer as part of a summer camp. So there are ways where we can bolster our finances, areas that we are weak, that tie in to these areas that we know are rejuvenating and energizing for us. So, all right, Sheila says working on it. Great. So let's think about those a little bit. And if you're comfortable and open to it, we'd love to have you share in the comments these ways that you can balance that. So Ashley, do you have an example that you can think of, an area that you're a little bit out of balance?
I do. I really love this discussion. Actually, I thought of two things. One around, for me, in places where I feel peaceful, it gives me kind of a balanced energy for intuitive information and knowledge around maybe finances is the example, right? So if that's an area where I struggle, when I get into a space where I'm peaceful and balanced in that space, it allows me to come up with new ideas I wouldn't have thought about by sitting here trying to think, how am I going to fix my finances, or how am I going to fix whatever else? It kind of creates that balance all on its own. But a more tangible example of that is, for me, lack of exercise is huge for a million reasons. A lot of it having to do with the adrenal fatigue I talked about, because exercise is just a challenge for me to do for my body and to find things I really like to do. But what I have found, ironically, is that I get in this work mode, do, and I'm sitting here thinking. But if I step away and I either take a walk, or sometimes when I'm doing yoga, I get all these little intuitive hits like, do this. What if you did that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like doing the exercise and that helps my body also brings in all this intuitive information, because I've stepped away from that other thing and I've created that balance just by changing what I look at, right? Changing the things I look at so I see different things or receive different things.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've got a Facebook user, and I don't know who you are. I'm sorry, but you said, wow, what a wonderful aha, really something to think about. Yes. So this is something it's just not something that we're taught, right? It's one of those things like how to write a check that you should really teach in schools. Because there are ways where we can bolster the areas that we know cause us stress and anxiety simply by focusing on the areas that we know rejuvenate us and provide us with energy. And so that's this valve concept. It's part of that ULA framework that I'm certified in. But it all ties into this so much. And I love, Ashley, that you brought in the intuition, because the intuition is a huge part of it. And obviously we're called the Intuitive Leadership Center for a reason. And it's because we believe that getting in tune with our intuition is a part of the feminine energy that really needs to be brought into balance in this world and the current society that we have. And so thank you for bringing in that intuitive piece, because we really need to listen to our bodies, listen to our guts, listen to the way and feel the way that our bodies react in certain situations. So we have another comment. I want to be healthy, and learning to become a belly fit instructor combines my love of yoga, dance, fitness, and belly dance. Plus, I can make a little cash. Yes, I love this so much. And oh my gosh, can you please stream a belly fit workout for us? I would love to do that. Please. I don't know who you are, but please do that. Maybe Lori.
It is Lori. Yep, I know Lori does the belly fit, and I would be happy to set that up. We could have a group effort where we all do belly fit together. And you could, I don't know if you need practice or what you need, but that would be great. I would love to see this and be a part of it.
I love that so much. I know a lot of people that have done this over the pandemic. What they've done is they found their passion for fitness, and they started just kind of, sharing fit. And we talked about how it doesn't fit into some people's lives, like my own, right? That was a conversation yesterday. I need to work on this because this was a big issue in the pandemic. But other people have found that fitness bolsters them during the pandemic, and they have started streaming it and started charging people $10 a month to watch their streaming videos or whatever. So I love this. That's huge. Sheila says, please, Lori, my belly needs help. Yeah, I feel that so hard. Mine too. 3 kids in 37 months. My belly is done.
I just wanted to add one quick thing too that came up again around this is if you don't have rest on your list, please put it on your list. I think as we've been talking about being doer types, right, and powering through and making things happen and getting things done. So what I have personally learned recently, and I'm a skeptic about this. I'm like, oh, but if I'm not working, things aren't happening. And I'm in a program where she incorporates an integration week, she calls it. And 1 week where I don't do anything. And I thought, man, that is I don't even know how to work with that. I got so much, I just we're going to call it a download, just downloads of awareness in 1 week of not doing a thing that I'm sold. I'm totally sold. So if you don't have an integration period put into your self-care plan, go ahead and put it on there. And if that scares you, I hear you. And we can talk through it because it scared me too. But I'm here to say that power of rest is so, and I don't mean sleep necessarily, although that's certainly important too. But taking a break from all the things before you start back all the things is so important. Allowing those downloads, allowing those receivings, that goes back to the intuitive piece, right? Allowing that information to come in. If you don't give space for it to come in, you can't put it out there anyways. And you're just spinning your wheels.
So someone said they had 3 kids in 36 months. So you have me beat by a month. So bravo to you, because I know that destroyed my body. So I can only imagine what it did to yours as well. And then I believe this is Lori. I don't know if the other one was Lori also, but I have to do a practicum where I filmed myself turning in to becoming an official certified instructor. So we will be who you instruct. I'm happy to take that role on, please. And we'll film you and we'll cheer you on and we'll give you amazing props throughout the whole thing, and hopefully that'll be motivating. Yes, we can all do this together and lift you up through your intimidation. That's the beauty of this, is that we're all part of a community. So, and Ashley, if you don't mind, I would like to go ahead and piggyback off of what you said about the integration. So I love this concept, and I know we've talked about it numerous times before. I actually just told a client of mine that they should do an integration program as well. And that is something that we have integrated. And so if you like what we're doing here, where we're introducing concepts and then also giving you the space and the time to work on it in the workshop, but you feel as though you need, some space to really have some time to integrate these into your lives, and then come circle back around and discuss it and further talk about ways that you can integrate it. We have incorporated that entire concept into our new program called Intuitive Leaders Rising. And so it's kind of the next step up from this. If you like these ideas, we have a 12-week coaching program. We're going to have 1 hour a week of group coaching, which, let's be honest, and like well beyond that if we have a really discursive environment. And then once a month, we're going to call it our integration. And so we are going to take the concepts and theories that we introduced and the work that we are doing throughout the course of the month and circle together for a 2-hour period and really work on discussing and integrating and taking the action steps to put those practices into our lives. And so you're going to be seeing information about that. If you are open to it and interested, we will be sharing that with you as well. So something to think about and something to consider. Ashley, did you want to chime in about that?
Sure. Yeah. So those who know me, you will recognize that concept of the integration circle. That is very similar to what we have been doing for the last, 4 years or so in the circles that we met. And this takes it up a little bit of a notch in terms of both the incorporation of information and then that processing of how is that working? How are you integrating that? What's going well? What are you struggling with? But what I really love about the idea of this too, and this is one of the things we've been talking about more broadly, is that leadership, whether you look at it as the top-down leadership or leadership within your life, right? Because we're not just talking about people with leadership titles. And I know a lot of you in my group don't identify with the word leader, but I 100% know that you all are leaders and passionate around being impactful in the world. And that is really what we're talking about here, although using leadership concepts. But it's deeper than just applying leadership concepts, right? Or applying any kind of concepts. What we're doing here today is giving you information, but where the real work happens is in saying what's going well, what's not going well, and also not just about those concepts, but in my whole life, right? So bringing in, like, I'm having this problem with my kid and it's interfering with me being able to apply these concepts. Here's an opportunity to share that, get support, really talk through it, get coached through it, get support from the other women in the group. So like I said, if you've been in circles with me, you kind of understand that concept. So now we're kind of taking both learning and the deeper work that happens in those circles and really putting that together into what I believe is going to be a really powerful program for women who want to just get to that next level of whatever that looks like for them under the title of leadership in the world.
That kind of ties back actually to the breaking of the societal definitions, right? So the term leadership that we're using in the Intuitive Leadership Center and Intuitive Leaders Rising is whoever identifies as a leader, right? It is, you do not have to have the title of a leader. I guarantee you, every single one of you that have listened to this, anyone that is watching the replay, you are a leader. You are a leader in your house. You are a leader at work, whether you realize it or not. You're a leader on social media, right? People watch you. People see you. Therefore, you are a leader because you are leading through impact. And I know that that is the center and the focus of not only my group, but also Ashley's as well. So, hey, someone just hopped on. Hey, they said. So, hey, I love that. Makes me want to do a little dance, kind of like that intro music. Ashley and I were talking about that. We're like, this intro music, when we do the countdown, makes us want to dance. And it's Friday, so let's do it. Let's just have a little dance break. Anyway, so I digress. But if you're interested in learning more about that, there's the link for that. Therefore, these meetings are my self-care. Yes, yes, absolutely. And it is, connecting with a community, learning more about ourselves, learning, just taking the time to be on something like this, to connect with ourselves, to learn, to pause, to turn off all the other distractions, that is absolutely a form of self-care. And so I applaud everybody who has watched, even in just a moment, of these workshops that we have given over the course of the last 3 days. All right. So, Ashley, unless you have anything else to add, I'm going to throw in a few admin items on the back end. I'm going to just thank everybody for creating the space to be here and for allowing us the opportunity to serve you and make a positive impact through this series. You will be receiving an email from us within the next couple of hours just to give you the links to where all the replays are always going to be stored, which are in both of our groups, as well as the opportunity to provide us with feedback. We would love feedback. We honor feedback regardless of what it is, because it continues to allow us to improve upon the impacts we are making. And in that feedback survey as well is the opportunity to let us know what you want to see next. Right, so we have these ideas of what we want to provide, but we would love to hear from you, particularly, what impacted you the most, but what you would like to see us also provide as a service to you. So please, if you wouldn't mind taking a few moments, it shouldn't be longer than 2 minutes unless you want to write us a novel, which we encourage as well. We will read it all, but it shouldn't take more than a few minutes, and that will be coming out. And then we'll also be sending over more information about the Intuitive Leaders Rising, the group coaching program that we just discussed, if you're open to hearing more about that. All right. With that, Ashley.
I just want to say thank you again for being here. Thank you to all of you guys who have participated. It makes it so much better when we have some comments and some feedback and we can talk back and forth. And I really appreciate it. And please do, Jennifer, I wanted to tag on to your comment about how these are your self-care. Let us know the kinds of topics around this that you are wanting to hear, like Erin said. And so that really does help us, either me individually, Erin and I together, however this plays out, to make sure you're getting the information that you want and you need. And it helps us to know what to do next, because maybe you haven't noticed, but we kind of like to teach. So, and we have some things that we like to share. So, and you all are a wonderful audience, and it's been really great to be here with you the last 3 days.
Awesome. Thank you. So with that, I am Dr. Erin Myers with Evolve Coaching and Consulting. This is Ashley Barnes with Ashley Barnes Coaching. And together, we are the Intuitive Leadership Center. So thank you so much for being here. Let's all rise up. Let's find better balance as we move into this post-COVID era. Thanks, everyone.